It's Friday the 13th of March from the MEN newsroom. This is Channel M's Lunchtime News and these are today's headlines. The violent criminals high on cocaine. Figures show how many attacks are linked to drugs here in Greater Manchester.
When you get a drug like cocaine, not only does it allow you to stay awake for longer so you can drink more alcohol, but it makes you very confident as well, and sometimes that can be cocky, so I don't think it surprises anybody that the association between alcohol and cocaine is so strong when it's to do with violence.
Also coming up, it's all in the eyes, the high-tech system that can see what you're looking at.
The eye tracking research study had the main objective of understanding how passengers consume media within the airport environment.
And we meet the young women from Manchester just back from climbing one of the world's biggest mountains.
It was really difficult, the higher you got up, just the lack of sleep. I've never camped before.
Good afternoon. There's concern over the link between cocaine use and violent crime here in Greater Manchester. A study's looked at more than 1,000 people who were arrested for things like assault, wounding and affray in the 7 months to last March. It's found 41% had taken cocaine or crack, either by itself or with other drugs. The drug is much cheaper now, which could be making it much easier for people to get hold of. With more, here's Beverly Walkton.
This is the Lifeline project in central Manchester now. Its job is to help drug users across the city. Now, Michael, you're a specialist in this area, aren't you? Are you surprised by the findings that there could be a link between cocaine use, alcohol and the sort of violence that we see in pubs and clubs every week?
I'm not surprised at all, because I think first and foremost there's always been violence on a Saturday night when you've got alcohol in the picture, and I think alcohol in any drug can equal violence. But also over the last 10 years cocaine use has grown, so it's, you know, second only to cannabis in terms of illegal drugs we see in this country. The combination of the two drugs together we know can lead to violence, so this is no surprise at all. I think the only thing it doesn't tell us is how many people go out on a Saturday night, take cocaine and drink alcohol and don't get involved in violence. I think it's partly to do with the fact that there's just so much cocaine being used on the streets of Manchester.
It's strange, isn't it, that it's not been talked about before, that cocaine could fuel violence. Are you surprised by that?
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, we published a booklet 10 years ago just on going out and safety in Manchester, where we kind of mentioned about alcohol and cocaine. It isn't surprising, it doesn't surprise anybody, and I don't think anywhere in the world where you get a situation where you get alcohol used in combination with drugs, particularly a drug like cocaine, that you're not going to get violence.
Good point there. Well, thank you, Michael. Well, cocaine use in Britain is more widely spread than ever before, but whether there is that link between cocaine use and violent behaviour remains to be seen. Back to the studio.
Thanks, Beverly, and we'll have more reaction to that later in the programme. A man's been repeatedly stabbed in the head and body in Newton Heath. Police were called to reports of someone bleeding shortly after 5 o'clock this morning on Oldham Road. He's been taken to hospital, but his injuries aren't considered to be life-threatening. Manchester United are defending removing controversial comments from Wayne Rooney from the club's website. The striker was interviewed after Wednesday's win over Inter Milan and spoke of his long-held hatred of Liverpool, who are at Old Trafford tomorrow. He said he's always hated Liverpool and that's not changed. Bosses say they're worried the comments could be misreported. Bosses at House of Fraser are refusing to comment on reports up to 50 staff could lose their jobs here in Manchester. Some staff at the branch, formerly known as Kendall's, have reportedly been told to reapply for their jobs. It's understood the general manager, Jeff Johnson, could be one of those under threat. Hundreds of people considering a switch to teaching here in Manchester are finding out what the career change would involve. It comes just days after plans were announced to speed up the process for qualifying to work in a school. Nina Warhurst has been speaking to one man who gave up working as a plasterer 5 years ago.
When my own children started school, I was privileged to go see an assembly at that school and watching the interaction between the head teacher and I think at the time there had been about 250 children in school, and the way he engaged them and saw the faces light up when they were really engaged and interested in what he said. It was at that point I realised that teachers make a huge difference in children's lives.
But it can't have been easy without any qualifications.
No, it wasn't. Once I'd made the decision to actually change career, I didn't have any formal qualifications, so I did an access course for a year and then 4 years at university. It was extremely hard. However, I've got to say that every moment of that hard work has been repaid to me in leaps and bounds with the work that I do with the children now, because working with them every day, the reward is immense.
New technology is being tried out here in Manchester that can track exactly what people are looking at. It can see how effective billboard adverts are at grabbing our attention. Kevin Duffy's been finding out how it works.
Like it or not, when it comes to advertising, a pretty face helps, or a famous one. Beyond that, working out what precisely people look at in an advert is a bit of a mystery. But now technology is helping. These special video camera glasses show exactly what somebody's looking at. And they're being used at Manchester Airport to help companies design advertising that works. I went to give them a try.
We're calibrating it, and Greg's in front of me with a red thing, a red stick, like a lollipop, like a microphone actually, that's got a black spot on it.
A vital job which ensures accuracy.
Right, here we go. These miniature cameras on the glasses which I'm wearing can see exactly where I'm looking, so let's go for a wander.
John Rankin's company, Eye, has the advertising concession at Manchester Airport.
The eye tracking research study had the main objective of understanding how passengers consume media within the airport environment, and that helps advertisers and also the airport understand the behaviour of passengers in the airport environment.
I mean, if you think about our day-to-day lives, we're constantly looking at signs, looking at messages everywhere we go. We all hate being lost, and this technology can really make a difference in having those signs placed in the right location and making them just easy to read so that we can go about our day-to-day lives without feeling distraught and lost.
Well, obviously, this really is very powerful technology. It's capable of revealing once and for all just what it is that really pleases the eye. I'm Kevin Duffy for Channel M News.
Air accident investigators are warning there's a high risk of the fault that caused the BA jet to crash land at Heathrow being repeated. They're worried other Boeing 777s could be affected and are calling for a redesign of a certain engine component. One person was seriously injured when the plane came down last January, only just clearing a perimeter fence. A man's been charged with hijacking a Mini belonging to Manchester City Council leader Sir Richard Leese. Lee So from Mostyn's accused of wresting the keys from him and speeding off in the vehicle and will appear in court later this month. The Labour politician ended up with a black eye after getting punched by the robbers. The former head of a top Manchester school says unruly children should be sent to Borstal. Outspoken teacher Stephen Patriarca, who stood down from William Hume Grammar last year, is accusing the government of pandering to the needs of disruptive pupils. He says there are some that are on the verge of being young criminals and tough love is needed to help them. Time now for the Lunchtime Sports headlines. Here's Mike Bradley with details of a good night for Manchester City.
James, it was. Thank you very much indeed. Sean Wright-Phillips and Felipe Caicedo, they scored the goals that gave the Blues a 2-0 UEFA Cup win over Aalborg last night. And that's all but sealed their place in the quarter-finals. And after the game, Channel M's Ian Irving caught up with Pablo Zabaleta and Shay Given.
We had some good chances. We played some good stuff tonight. But on the flip side, we didn't want to get too carried away and go out attack and leave the back door open. So it was important that we kept it tight at the back. And I think we got the players to cause them some problems over there as well, and hopefully get an away goal.
How confident are you of getting the result over there?
Yeah, we've got to be confident after the first leg, but they'll be thinking the tie's not over yet. It's only half time, as people say, and but we're delighted to say haven't got an away goal, and we can look forward to next week.
You've played in the UEFA Cup final yourself.
Yeah.
Do you think the team is good enough to go all the way?
Yeah, it's difficult. We have the opportunity to pass the next round, so it's a good result. It's a good result for us. I played in the season 0-5, 0-6 with Espanyol in Glasgow. We lost with Sevilla penalty, so it's very important for the club can play the final cup this season.
Now we'll be hearing from Sir Alex Ferguson ahead of United's game against Liverpool in our 5 o'clock news bulletin. But as far as City are concerned, they travel to Chelsea on Sunday, where fullback Wayne Bridge is looking forward to returning to one of his previous clubs.
I know a lot about them. It's going to be a hard game, very hard game. We've done well against some big teams, so hopefully we can do well on Sunday and get at least a draw.
Do you see a lot of changes from the Chelsea side that you left at the start of the season to the Chelsea side now under Hiddink?
I don't know, I've not watched them too much. Obviously watched the game the other night, but you know, they're dangerous, especially the front players in the midfield. They can be very dangerous, and you know, they attack well, but you know, the team we've got here, we're capable of doing well against them, and you know, hopefully we can nick a win.
Well, fresh from last week's 32-25 home defeat against Newcastle, Sale Sharks travel to a Northampton side tomorrow, buoyed by their own 22-12 defeat of Worcester. But Sharks director of rugby Kingsley Jones is looking forward to the trip to Franklin's Gardens.
I haven't seen a lot of Northampton play this season. Obviously, I've watched them the last week, but over the season I haven't seen them play a lot. They're a very good side, particularly at home. It's a tremendous place to go and play, Northampton. You know, the lobby connection is one of probably the most that people will look forward to. Two brothers against each other, one former Shark. I'm not sure they'll play at 10, but Myler's a very good player, great kicking game. You know, the back row are very strong. Nacho, we know experience and leadership he brings to the forwards. So there isn't any way, and if Foden plays at full back, we know how lethal he is. Nobody knows that more than us.
Now tomorrow's fight between Amir Khan and Mexican ring legend Marco Antonio Barrera. It's being hailed as a make-or-break affair for the man from Bolton, who we'll also be hearing from in this evening's bulletins. But for now, promoter Don King believes it'll be his man celebrating tomorrow night.
I can't say enough good things about Amir Khan. I can't forget when we were in Welsh, wherever we were. Yeah, and little Amir was just starting out. He was going with all of his moves. I said, he's a young Sugar Ray Robinson. You know, and it was just a thrill to see this type of resurrection of talent and skill and ability. You know, so I still feel the same way. He got derailed somewhere on the line, but he tried to come back. But not this time. You know what I mean? After we roll away the stone from the presentation that you just made with my Iho, you roll away the stone, you know, to bring him back from the dead, you know what I mean? Because you say how old he was, and, you know, and he's finished, and then Frank said there wasn't no gas in the tank. I mean, we should have an obituary. You know, so now you're going for it to be the shock of your life. All the spirits of all the great Mexicans is hovering over this young man. Pancho Villa, Emiliano Zapata, Hidalgo, Benito Juarez, all of them are there saying, go out and defend Mexico. That's what he's going to do. So I'm sorry, but we're going to knock out Amir Khan.
Now in ice hockey, the Manchester Phoenix slipped to another league defeat last night, this time 4-3 at the hands of the Cardiff Devils. Plans have just been unveiled to hold a Ryder Cup-style swimming event between Europe and the United States in Manchester later this year, although we have to add talks are at an early stage. In basketball, Manchester Magic host the Reading Flyers. That's at the Amici Centre tomorrow, where a win ought to be enough to secure them the EBL 1 runners-up spot. Tip-off at 7:30. And finally, Malalka has been reinstated as the captain of Salford City Reds. That's it from me for now, but please do try and join Sam Goodman at 5 o'clock, when, among others, we'll be hearing from Sir Alex Ferguson and Amir Khan.
Mike, thanks very much for the update. Still to come, the event trying to make sure we're all doing enough to prepare for retirement, and just the thing for a Friday, the pub looking for beer tasters.
Yes, our local winner will be asked to come back over 6 weeks and sample 6 real ales. If they're lucky enough to win that, to go on to a regional final, and to win that, the national final, and should they be lucky enough to win that, an all-expenses trip awaits to the Czech Republic and the Budvar Brewery.
Welcome back to Channel M's Lunchtime News. Don't forget all our headlines are online as well, where you can watch any of our reports again. Log on now to channelm.co.uk to see our report about the triathlon that's been cancelled in case it encourages people to swim in reservoirs. And our reporter Ben Bland shows off his conjuring skills to celebrate 100 years of magic here in Manchester. That's at channelm.co.uk. Now back to our top story, and figures are out that show a worrying link between drug use and violent crime here in Greater Manchester. A study's looked at more than 1,000 people who were arrested for things like assault, wounding and affray in the 7 months to last March. It's found 41% had taken cocaine or crack, either by itself or with other drugs. In a statement, Greater Manchester Police have told us it's important not to ignore the link between drugs, alcohol and violence in our city centres. Well, joining us now to talk a little bit more about this is Clive Wisely from the Salford Drug Action Team. Thank you very much for coming in today. First of all, the link between drug use and violent crime. How worried are you about that link?
Well, I think we are worried, in particular the link between cocaine and alcohol and violent crime. It seems to be quite a worrying connection.
How hard is it to try to break that link when you do have people who are committing crimes who are taking drugs and they're using criminal activity because of that?
It is very difficult, in particular if their violent behaviour is entrenched. And I think one of the things that it's important to say is that the causal relationship between drugs and violence is not necessarily so straightforward. In other words, it's often violent people who use cocaine rather than cocaine causing violence. So I think that's an important distinction to make.
How easy is it to try to deal with people's addictions and hopefully, because of that, also help with cutting the crime that goes with it?
Well, in that case, the news is good. If people have addictions, then there are treatments that are available, and those treatments are available across the whole of the area of Manchester. So yes, there is a way out, and there are lots of helping organisations.
Obviously, we're hearing these statistics today about how much of a problem the police are considering it. What more do you think could be done to be supporting the organisations like your own to make sure that you can do your work more effectively?
Well, I think we need to be particularly focusing on people who commit violent offences where drink and drugs are a feature in that. Yes, definitely. I think we could be looking at introducing orders and doing much more work in that area.
OK, well, Clive Wisely from the Salford Drug Action Team, thank you very much for coming in this lunchtime, much appreciated. Let's check some more of the day's top stories now. And pensioners visiting a retirement show here in Manchester say they feel overlooked and they're worried what the future holds for them. That's the feeling coming out of a two-day event aiming to show what help and support is available as they approach old age.
In the political climate and the financial climate, it's very, very difficult if you're relying on any interest from your investments because they're virtually non-existent now.
We know people who are dependent on their investments for their income. I mean, the old age pension doesn't do very much for you, particularly if you've got your own property, you're paying rates, water rates and all the services, and it makes it very difficult.
Pensioners are ignored, really. Everything you see is more about the family, and they forget us at the other end.
We feel we don't have any muscles yet. I think that the ageing population is rising. They'll have to take, you'll have to consider our opinion in the future.
The funeral's taking place of a police officer shot dead in Northern Ireland. The Continuity IRA's admitted killing Constable Stephen Carroll in County Armagh. Hundreds of people are expected at the service. A Labour peer says he's getting ready to return to work after being freed from jail where he's been serving time for a crash that killed a man from Lee. Lord Ahmed was sent to prison after admitting sending text messages while driving on a motorway. His vehicle hit another the Christmas before last, killing Martin Gombar, who was originally from Slovakia. His 12-week sentence has now been suspended. Figures show fire crews are being called out at least once a week to move obese patients. There were 86 such cases last year to deal with things like people stuck in their baths or unable to get up off the floor. Next, they started off without a walking boot between them. Now, 3 young women from Manchester City Council are celebrating reaching the top of Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. They did it to raise £11,000 for the charity Marie Curie, and they came into this morning's breakfast show to tell me more about it.
Well, one of the biggest challenges was the fundraising, because our target was £10,000. And we only signed up in June, and we had to have it collected by, well, February. Yeah. So fundraising was difficult, very time-consuming. Like you say, we didn't have any walking boots, so training, we'd never done any climbing before. So training, we had to fit it around our jobs. walking to work, walking back from work. It was unbelievable, the sights. It was just a different sight every day, every day. It was really difficult. The higher you got up, just the lack of sleep. I've never camped before, so I was in a tent and sleeping bags. Myself and Yvonne got altitude sickness, so we found that really difficult, but we all made it to the top.
Yeah. You felt, you know, overwhelmed that you'd reached the summit, but at the same time you were physically and mentally exhausted, but just a great achievement, and knowing that we'd raised that much money for Marie Curie Cancer Care all the way through, that was the inspiration to keep us going.
Now, Friday lunchtime, there are probably one or two of you looking forward to a quick pint or a glass of wine when you finish work. Well, if you happen to be in Worsley, you could apply for this job. The Woodside pub is looking for a chief ale tester to sample 2 different drinks each week. Ben Bland's been to see what they're looking for.
Now, if you thought describing drinks was all flowery language and exaggerated descriptions, think again. Here to tell us exactly how it's done is Dave Hallows from the Campaign for Real Ale. Dave, tell us, what have you got there and how would you describe it if you were in this competition?
Well, this is Sharps Dunbar. It's a West Country bitter. It's got a mild taste and then a bitter aftertaste.
OK, well, I can see you're not giving away too much there because people at home might be making notes. That's exactly the kind of thing they'd be expecting from a chief reviewer of real ales. Now, this competition is happening across 8 pubs in the northwest. Stuart is the landlord here at the Woodside. Stuart, tell us a little bit more about this festival.
Yes, our local winner will be asked to come back over 6 weeks and sample 6 real ales. If they're lucky enough to win that, to go on to a regional final, and to win that, the national final, and should they be lucky enough to win that, an all-expenses trip awaits to the Czech Republic and the Budvar Brewery.
Well, there we have it. Free beer potentially for 6 weeks and possibly a holiday to the Czech Republic. So what are you waiting for? Get those reviews sent in.
Right, let's take a look ahead now to the weekend weather forecast. Checking the details for us, here's Michelle Eagleton.
Well, we're expecting a really nice day across Greater Manchester. Highs are between 14 and 10 for most of us. The only place that's going to see a few showers is Preston and over in Wigan. But those showers will be brief and it has been nice over the past couple of days. That is set to continue. So great news for the start of your weekend. Let's take a look at what the weather was like about 9 o'clock this morning because it was, as I say, very, very mild and dry. We did have a little bit of a cloud. Now that was with us till about 11, 12 o'clock. The cloud has cleared up now, so this afternoon we are looking forward to a bright and sunny day right across Greater Manchester. It's going to continue into the evening, so if you've got plans for tonight, they are going to be great if you are outdoors because you're definitely not going to need a brolly at all until tomorrow. Now, I do know Saturday we are going to experience a fair bit of rain. It should dry up by Sunday with highs of 12. Monday's looking good. It's going to be dry and bright, and then get that on Tuesday. Look at that picture. Lots of sunshine and highs of 12 degrees.
This is Channel M, our top stories. It's claimed 41% of violent criminals here in Greater Manchester are high on cocaine. Researchers have looked at 1,000 people who were arrested over a 7-month period. Police say it's important the link between drug use and crime in our cities is recognised. A man has been stabbed in the head and body in Newton Heath. He was knifed repeatedly early this morning on Oldham Road, which had to be closed for much of the rush hour. Those are the latest headlines, and that was the lunchtime news. We'll have much more with Andy Crane in our early evening news from 5 o'clock tonight. But from me and the rest of the lunchtime team, have a very good weekend. Bye-bye for now.